Welcome to Emotional Sobriety.
We very luckily, gratefully have Joe C back with us. And
Yay.
Alan,
Hey, Joe is back.
do you watch the Super Bowl over there?
A lot of Canadians do.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know anything about it. I know that the 49ers are playing because, well, and that I guess that's supposed to be important to me because I went to college in San Francisco, so a little bit of hometown pride there. But I don't know. I mean, this is way more fun to me than watching the Super Bowl is just talking to some sober people. But I'm weird like that.
You talk like a woman's dream.
I'm always hoping for that. Yeah. How are you, Joe?
Oh, there's that question again. That we do this emotional sobriety thing, and we have to sort of lay it on the line. I am curious and content. Was on a Yesterday was a day of sort of AA service. It was an area sort of service day thing, and I was people from cooperation with the professional community were talking about AI and utilizing AI as a means of, you know, putting public information pieces out. And like I heard the next generation becoming the stewards of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that gave me a sense of hope. Um, Sorry about the climate and the you know polarizing arguments we've been having for years, but it seems like we're in good hands there. So I feel good about that. And today I feel curious and content.
That sounds good. The two C's, it's very like alliterative.
CC and A and A.
How about you, Alan? How you feeling, man?
Well, I'm 4 days out of surgery now. Is that right? Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I am feeling exceptionally well given the extensive surgery that took place in the hip conversion and then hip replacement. They took quite a pin out of my leg that he had to bore out with a 14 millimeter hollow drill. And then really the surgeon, Dr. Vakorin, was outstanding. I mean, he saw that he had to use a special prosthesis that went further into my leg, and that was reinforced at the top because of all the bone he had to cut away. So I think I'm in really good shape. I did my exercises at least. They asked me to try to do 2 sets. I couldn't manage that, but I did 1 set very well. And I got up and I moved around all day long, maybe a little too much. I had some swelling last night, but I put back on my compression sleeve today and I've been active pretty much most of the day. And so I'm doing well. I did lay off of my pain regime and I tried to extend the time with the oxy, and that was a bit of a mistake. I waited 9 hours instead of 4. But I won't do that again. At the most, I'll probably wait it's 5 or 6. I've got to pay attention to the number. They said if my pain number goes above 5 is when I need to think about using it. And I'm only using 5 milligrams. So that's good news too. I'm getting a lot of relief because they've got that. It's a multimodal approach to pain. I'm on a steroid. I'm on 1,000 milligrams of Advil 3 times a day. I'm on meloxicam. I'm on an aspirin. I mean, they've really got it well spread out kind of pain regimen. And then the oxy is on top of 600 milligrams of gabapentin a day.
Would you
So
like fries with that, sir?
what's that?
Would you
I'll
like
have
fries with that?
some cheese on top of my burger. No, some oxy on my burger. No, that's bad. Oh, that was bad. But I'm feeling excited, you guys. You can hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
This pain is different than the pain I've been experiencing. The pain I experienced, there was no end to. It was chronic pain. And I could feel the difference when people talk about, and I think you might have even brought it up in one of our shows, Joe, and maybe Tom did last time. The difference between experiencing something that feels permanent versus feeling temporary.
Right.
And when it's permanent, for me, it's a lot more of a challenge to deal with because I don't see any hope. I don't see things getting better. It's just the way it's going to be and probably worse, which is a whole different mindset than going through a pain that is leading me towards some kind of a better outcome. And right now, I feel the latter. For the last 7 weeks, man, I've been fighting some depression with the chronic pain, and I can really, my heart goes out to those of you that have no relief from chronic pain because it is a challenge to stay the course and to try to carve out a decent life with that kind of experience. But I am feeling excited and hopeful. I'm gonna try to pull back on the reins because if I'm feeling great today, I'm gonna do even more tomorrow to feel better, and that'll probably be a mistake. But I do start my physical therapy tomorrow. That's good news. And so things are excited, as you guys can tell, and I'm so looking forward to what we've been doing here. But before I get into that, Patrick, how are you?
Yeah. How is your biopsychosocial self, Patrick?
Can I just ask very briefly, Alan, when you were in chronic pain mode, is there anything you were able to do to achieve momentary respite from just the four-corner assault you were experiencing?
I think the big key to it was getting a lot of support from you guys, accepting that this is the way it is, hoping it wasn't going to be permanent, but not knowing if it would or wouldn't. That was going to be determined by the surgery. But I did hold out a little hope on that. I got a lot of reassurance from people that have been here before. It's kind of like recovery. I heard people say, "Hey, I've done that, and I was sorry I didn't do it sooner." And that was the word I got over and over and over again. So while it wasn't my experience yet, the fact that other people had that experience was meaningful for me.
Mhm.
Say, like Herb Kagan talks about lighting the path with a lantern. And it was kind of holding up that lantern for me and seeing some territory and a path that I couldn't see from where I was at with the chronic pain I was experiencing. So I would say it's a combination of those. And look, all the work we've been doing on this emotional sobriety, man, has gotten integrated. I could not have survived this last year with the divorce and other experiences I had in my marriage without it. And so I just see this as another step on that journey of learning how to grow up and deal with life on life's terms.
That's beautiful, Alan. Briefly, I have been continuing with the going through the steps with the sponsee. It's my very first time doing that. And when I talked to my sponsor about it, he reminded me that like it's when you start using whatever the program is, when you start using it on somebody besides yourself and kind of experiencing it through that new set of eyes.
Joe was talking about.
Yeah, that it really starts to kind of like get to a deeper level. And I have been experiencing some of that and really hoping I'm not messing things up. But I've been enjoying that and getting a lot of fulfillment out of it. Dating somebody new, and I got the most amazing gift from her yesterday. She sent me an exercise bike for my knee and quads are so emaciated from the injury and stuff. And I kind of like offhandedly mentioned like I was trying to decide whether I should do a gym membership to have access to machines like that, or if I should fork over the couple $100 to get it. And she just went ahead and got it. And it's funny because she was priming me for this gift I would be getting, and I thought it would be just some little bauble or just something funny, but instead it was like this thing. I'm gonna set it up later this afternoon and kind of like really, because I've been doing exercises. I can relate to what you're going through, Alan, because like we recover in many ways based on like how proactive we're being in the time between the appointments. And like I'm trying to get some of that physical discipline back, and I'd like to be the first person in history who actually like used the machine that came to the door and and then stuck with it for a bit. So
To bed, right? Or put it in the garage. That's where those end up.
yeah, this will be the one. So yeah, so that's me. But I'm just so happy to be here and happy to be proceeding through the emotional sobriety grapevine with you guys.
Many listeners would be able to tell us that exercise machines make great clothing horses.
They do. That's true, Joe. I've used some myself that way. As we talked about before, the January issue of the Grapevine was devoted entirely to emotional sobriety, which I'm very excited about. To me, it's a real reflection that the spirit of the times are changing and that we're ready to start integrating emotional sobriety into our mainstream discussion of recovery. And unfortunately, but probably for a lot of different reasons, good reasons, it hasn't taken place until recently. Bill Wilson started to talk about these ideas back in the late 40s, and in the 50s. He incorporated many of them into the 12 and 12. And then in 1953, he wrote this remarkable letter to somebody in California, which to me was a wonderful synthesis of his understanding of emotional sobriety, and detailed in many ways a lot of the core concepts. And so what we're doing here is we're going through these articles and listening to what the people that have submitted their articles have said about it, and with an eye on, can we sweeten the pot and help deepen the understanding and broaden the understanding of emotional sobriety and our recovery. So with that being said, let's take it away, Pat.
From January 2024, the Emotional Sobriety Special Section, Doing Just Fine by Steve S. from Manhasset, New York. As the battering rams pummel his little slice of the world, he'll be okay today because he's sober. As I'm writing this, our electric meter is on the backyard table and the power is off in the house. The circuit breaker panel in the basement has been pulled off and we are waiting for the job to be finished. A short circuit yesterday was a sign of some real serious trouble, possibly even a future fire. I'm in my very own and deeply personal financial crisis. I'm hoping that sitting here and writing this down will save my life and keep me sober today. And possibly, dear reader, it may help others who feel just like I do right now.
I'm sitting at our wrought iron backyard table watching the men work on our electric line. My head is down with a hat covering the emotionless expression on my face. There's a current edition of Grapevine sitting here next to my omnipresent carafe of strong brewed coffee. The magazine is cover side down and my sun-shielded eyes focused on the Serenity Prayer. My spirit is meditating and really trying to absorb the words, especially the part about accepting the things I cannot change.
You see, the problem is money. This kind of electrical work is expensive, and when money is tight, things are not all right. My anxiety and resentment are building. I can feel it. I start thinking, why did I become physically disabled and knocked out of 2 professions at an early age? Why did alcoholism invade my life with mental, emotional, and even spiritual deficits? I feel so darn helpless right now. There's a passage in the big book about alcoholics being good earning power, being well off, etc., and it irks me. Don't our 9th step promises say fear of economic insecurity will leave us? Then why is my well-founded fear still with me? I know the answer. It's because we are, close parentheses, human.
Just because the steps are in my life and I'm living in the AA program of recovery doesn't mean the arrows and battering rams pummeling my little slice of the world can't hurt me and that I can't feel them. The pain is here now and it's real. It's not just the economic crisis, but family issues too. When it rains, it pours. My old ways of coping, 24 years ago as a matter of fact, would have had me rocketing off to oblivion. I would start with just one drink to calm me down and soothe my anger, but one drink was impossible.
I'm doing the best I can to be here for my family. The COVID pandemic hit us pretty hard financially. I can't see going on a nice family vacation in the foreseeable future. I can't see renovating the house like my wife and I would like, or piling up a nice retirement income either. Since I got sober, my wife and I helped the kids. We have 2 sons and a daughter who made it through both college and professional schools with honors. Isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're sober? Take care of family? AA teaches us to live in the solution. This article won't be helpful to read if I just woe is me'd through it. I was taught that if all I am to do is moan about the past, which no matter how much I try, I cannot change, and not live in today, then I won't have much of tomorrow.
So as I sit here and watch this new costly power system go up, I realize a couple of things. First, my wife assures me that we won't have to live on the street after this work is over. And as far as we know today, we both have our health, and the kids are doing just fine. Our cat Walter seems pretty content too. Also, I have a feeling that even though the forecast says rain tomorrow, the sun will still rise.
But what do I do about the very real pain and the fear I have of my financial unknown? Well, I'm trying my best to look for a job, something in my chosen field. I speak freely with my friends and my sponsor about it, so I'm being proactive. Just a moment ago, a text flashed on my phone. It's a friend of mine, another AA. He's having troubles, really bad ones, one that make mine look like blessings. Even worse, he drank 2 days ago. I think I'll call him and meet him for a virtual meeting, then spend some time chatting and maybe even do some step work with him. Maybe I'll invite a couple of the other guys and we'll have a small AA meeting together. Now that's not so bad, is it?
My good friend Howard just came in and delivered me a get well package. Howard's saying hi.
Hey,
Howard's a regular on our Thursday night meeting, and
welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
has been just absorbing this stuff. I'm going to pass this article on to him so he can read it over real quick as we start our discussion of it.
Okay.
And maybe wants to contribute something as we're talking here.
Awesome.
First of all, Howard, thanks for coming by. I appreciate your support, and I've been getting so much support from all you guys in the fellowship, and it means the world to me. This is what our fellowship is about.
Everyone needs a Howard.
Everybody needs a Howard. You guys remember when I was saying that the girls were going away with their mom on Christmas, right? Because of our divorce. And that I wrote Cece this wonderful letter that I had to go up north and that's why I couldn't be with them. Well, look at what Howard makes for me. He's got me talking to one of the reindeers up in there. So I'll be able to put it in Cece's room and my room as a reminder. What a sweetheart, man. Thanks, buddy. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, I went to like Fiverr and contracted somebody to draw a caricature. I was like, I gotta do something. It's just the neatest little story.
So let me tell you my first response to this. I mean, see, this is one of the things that I think is so important that how can I say it, that we balanced our expectations of what recovery means. You know, he was talking about the fact that he hears in meetings, boy, all these things are going to be returned to you. You're going to be financially secure. You know, life is just going to work out with sobriety. Things are going to fall into place, right? Because you're not drinking anymore. Well, that's true some of the time. But to expect that to be the baseline is the problem that we've had all along. You see, basing our well-being on what is happening, the outcome of our experience, has always created us great trouble in our life. It always has, because I want things to be the way I want them to be, thinking I need them to be that way to be okay. And see, and that's the struggle that people have. They go to a meeting, and if they don't start experiencing that, they think, you know what? Something's wrong with my recovery. I'm not working the program right. This guy is working the program as good, if not better than anybody else in the program, because he's dealing with reality as it is. We've defined emotional sobriety as an honest and appropriate relationship to reality. Unfortunately, he's going through some tough times. It's a series of very unfortunate circumstances that this man and his family are facing. And my heart goes out to him. Look, I've been there. You guys have known that. You know, I've had those experiences myself this last year. And it's not that this is all going to work out for us. It's how we're going to work it out when it's not working out. I'll say that again. It's not like recovery is always going to work out the way that we would like it to or the way we want it to. But if we really embrace the principles here, we can work it out regardless of what's happening to us, regardless of success or failure, regardless of pain or suffering, regardless of any of these things that we thought we needed to be okay. And so I just think there's such a wonderful message that he's sending everybody in this article. I'm really excited to read it and share it with everybody and to share some of my thoughts about it. What do you think about it, Joe, and then Howard and Patrick?
Yeah. We were talking earlier before the tape was rolling. Um, for those of you too young to know what tape is, it's not important now. But before we started recording, about how this podcast is real-time emotional sobriety, where addiction is biopsychosocial. And the solution, you have to look after your physical health, your emotional, mental health, and the world around you, the people you engage with, repair those relationships, and you need the relationship of others to heal. And this guy is, and so your show is happening while all those things are happening in your lives, problems with physical health, emotional health, relationship health. And the show goes on. It isn't paused for that because that's what the show is friggin' about. And this guy is another perfect example of that. In live time, he's gone, here's what I'm going through now, not here's what I went through when I was new, and here's how I solved it. And if you're new, blah, blah, blah. He's talking about his fear. He's not trying to shun it. He's just owning it. He's just, making room for it. He's talking about what he cares about. He's talking about his disappointment. He's talking about his grievances, right? And he's not trying to fix it. He's just trying to live through it. He's showing up for himself, and I think it's beautiful. And the fact that he put pen to paper and shared it with us, I think something in him knew that's how this whole thing works.
Well, it reminds me of the saying I've used a lot, Joe. Emotional sobriety is about not letting the experience you have claim you. It's about claiming the experience. And that's an easy thing to say, but it is not an easy thing to do, man, when that anxiety is rumbling in our gut, or when, when my heart is broken, when my expectations have been shattered on reality, those things are very, very difficult, but it is the key here, is finding a way to claim that experience and move that emotional center of gravity back into myself instead of externalizing that locus of control to everyone and everything and every circumstance.
Well, living in the solution, as he describes, he's looking for jobs. He's doing the best he can to kind of like marshal what resources he has to overcome some of the financial pressures that he's under and the consequent family pressures. But I just thought it was very moving that the story ends with him getting a call from somebody who's suffering from addiction and him setting up a meeting to sit with some other people rather than trying to skip over the moment that he's in and to not feel or to not confront these pressures. He's doing a meeting and he's going to sit with some other addicts and he's going to be in that moment and really try and bring the best he can of himself out of it and through it. And I thought that was very inspirational. And I mean, I'm very aware there are going to be moments in my life, there's going to be passages that are really dark. And I want to stay recovering and stay sober through those moments. And each one is going to be a test, but it was so illuminating when we started working together, Alan, when you told me that little secret about how when things are going wrong, that doesn't mean my recovery is going wrong.
The other thing you just reminded me of, you see, what an incredible example he's being about being, like Joe said, this show has been showing up just like he showed up. And sometimes that's the best we can do. Just get there, just show up. But I will bet, I don't know this, but my imagination says he's going to share his experience. And for others to see that you can stay sober regardless of what's happening is an incredibly powerful message, right? It's easy to stay sober if everything's going your way and your life is ascending and the light is shining around you and you feel spirituality everywhere. But the real challenge comes, and this is what a dear friend of mine, Tom Catton, who just recently passed away, said. The real challenge in recovery is to not drink or use, when you would rather be drinking and using. That's when the rubber hits the road, man, is what we do at that point where our first natural inclination would be, let me pick up that drink, let me pick up that drug, let me act out in some way to soothe this pain, only making things worse. And that's what it would have done for this guy. He throws alcohol on top of this problem. It's like taking a bucket of gasoline and throwing gasoline on top of a fire thinking you're going to put it out.
As I was reading the story, it was kind of my story. So in 2005, I declared, federal bankruptcy. I was 18 years sober, 17, 18 years sober, probably making $80,000 a year, and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. And just like this guy saying, what about this promise? When does fear of economic, people in economic security leave us? When does it leave us? And I found out that it's when I stopped inviting the insecurity in. And so,
Yes,
when I was, making 80,000 a year, spending 90 or 100,000, you could only be insecure. That was the setup.
Yeah.
But I blamed the bank because the interest was too high. I blamed the boss because he didn't give me a raise. I blamed everybody else for my financial difficulties. And what I found out is, because I thought finances were mathematical, and they are, right? You need like 6th grade math to do your checkbook, but it's emotional and spiritual as well. And I do talk about this because when it happened, I didn't talk about it. And the first time I mentioned it in a meeting, it was almost by accident. And someone said, "Hey, thanks for talking about it because I'm going through the same thing at 22 years sober." And there's not, and what came, so I did a financial inventory, essentially, emotional, spiritual, everything that we do with anything else. And I was behaving like a child with money, right? I want what I want. I spent whatever I want. I didn't care, right? I'll pay it later, right? That's the American way, right? The American dream, or now nightmare,
Yeah, the dream
So-
becomes a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And so the emotional piece is, so now that I don't have any debt, and I have money in the bank, I had an emergency, I had to rebuild from age 40 to age 56, so I could have some financial solvency, but it took a long time. And it took me saying, I'm not going to spend more than I make anymore. Just like I'm not going to drink anymore. I had to set a new bottom line, right? And now the spiritual piece I didn't understand, though. That was the most significant one. And I was getting set up with a financial counselor to walk me through some of this stuff. And he said, "Okay, first thing I want you to do is I want you to make a budget for next month." So I made this budget, food, shelter, water, cable bill. And again, this is like 2007. So there were no smartphones, there were different things. And he said, I noticed you don't have giving on your budget. I said, "Well, as you can see, I really can't afford it." And he said, "Oh, I see," because I put at the bottom giving. Like I said, "Okay, put giving $10." He said, "Whatever." He said, "Okay." So then he takes the whole budget and he takes the whole piece of paper and he turns it upside down. He says, "Well, what if we give first?" That's the first thing we do. We give to God, because he was a spiritual guy as well. Now maybe you can't afford that phone, that cable bill. Now what can't you afford? And so in bankruptcy, I gave 10% of my income all the way through getting out of bankruptcy, and I always had enough money. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's divine, because I just trusted the guy. And then he went on to further. I said, how does this work? How come that works? And he said, the mistake you've been making is you think it's your money. It was given to you, just like your body and your spirit and everything you have was just given to you by God. And as your heavenly Father, just like you're a regular father, if you don't take care of the car, then you're not getting the car anymore. You don't take care of your income, you're not getting more. So, again, and when COVID hit, my wife and I were okay. We planned for an unfortunate event, whatever it was. Lost our job. No, we didn't lose our jobs, but things changed, but we were okay. We made it to today. But it was because we were acting like adults, the emotional maturity, the emotional sobriety. I wasn't, buying stuff I didn't need. I wasn't, going places I couldn't afford. It was really a reset, and that meant sacrifice as well. So,
Well, the other thing what you're sharing, by the way, which is tremendous, and I'm so glad.
Amazing.
God shot that you pop in at this time and join us. Thank you. But what is really also so salient from your discussion is that it's an acceptance of our limitations. And see, for me, any limitation seemed to be imprisoning to me.
Yeah.
I never thought how accepting my limitation could be freeing. It always felt like I was being put in a straitjacket, right? And that people were taking things away from me. And see, that's one of the wonderful flips, right? Turnarounds that happens in recovery is something that feels like you're going to lose something actually gives you more than you're losing.
yeah.
And see, that's what I think is so wonderful about what you're sharing. It got flipped around.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you didn't see your limitation as a limitation. You saw it as a door to more freedom, more financial freedom, more freedom from insecurity, more freedom from your anxiety. And see, boy, listen to that lesson, folks. It's available to each and every one of us if we can start accepting our limitations as they are instead of seeing them as a restriction. You're going to experience a new freedom.
And I wanted to point out too, or maybe ask Howard, seconding what Allen said, that I, thought that was just so moving and beautiful, and we really lucked out having you on today. But what would the alternative have been? Like I put that to you because I think your choice was pragmatic in addition to all those other things you mentioned. Because like the alternative would have been, right, to kind of place these demands on the banks, on these kind of inflexible, dimensions of the situation, where instead you kind of went internal and you figured out, okay, well, how can I accommodate, this situation that I'm in? And it seems to have really like helped. Is that like a correct assessment, you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the time of my filing, the way the law is, I mean, this isn't the law seminar, but there were two choices. You got chapter 11, where you don't have to pay it back, and chapter 13, where they decide what you pay back. I qualified for 11, but I talked to my sponsor. I said, I have to pay people back. I would feel like I'm not making my complete amends, because for years I thought they wanted my money. And again, we turned around like, no, they want their money. I borrowed it. I got to pay it back. And even though it was a credit card company, it wasn't like a guy I knew from a bar and I owed him money. No, I took your money. So I decided to pay it back, and it obviously took longer. But what Allen said about the freedom, because what happened was, and this is going to be a tough part to read, because I when we got out of debt, I no longer needed to make $80,000 or $90,000 to pay off all the money. Okay, so I took it, and I could now have a job that I really wanted, and so I went from being a scientist to being a school teacher, which is a lot less money. But because I didn't owe everybody all this money anymore, I had the freedom to take any job I wanted to. There it is. And I've been there for 15 years now, the longest job I ever had. Now looking at the outcome, it's like, I don't know, maybe there was no alternative. This was it. Yeah. This was the push I needed.
And your recovery actually did help you with, I mean, it was central to you overcoming your financial insecurity. And because I hear that from some people, right? It's like, well, I get sober, I go to the meetings, right? But it's not going to help me conjure a living or all these other life-sustaining things. But it actually, if you look deeply, there is a connection there.
Your sobriety becomes effective when you do, period.
And one of the emotional sobriety mantras is don't take it personally. Steve in the story thought, well, other people must be going through difficult times too, and shit happens. This just happens in life. And Howard, in your story, you let go of that blame the bank, blame the economy, blame the boss, blame the job. And, you just sort of, accepting life on life's terms. I remember when I thought sobriety was a limit. It was going to limit my life. Sobriety was going to reduce the value and pleasure in my life. And that's because I didn't understand sobriety. I only understood drinking and drugs.
I felt that too, like I was losing something rather than gaining something.
Yeah.
And so many things that I thought I was losing. I'll never forget what Dr. Kempler said to me one time. Al, that would be a good thing to lose. But I never thought of losing as a good thing, right? It's like I had to have to be okay, not lose something. There was no happiness in losing. It was having that was going to make me happy. And oh man, did I have it backwards.
Yeah, or the old saying, you can't lose something you never really had.
Yeah.
You didn't have freedom and happiness and all the things that we
It
have.
was an illusion. Yeah, it was an illusion.
Yeah,
A drug-induced illusion.
Yeah.
It really was.
the quick hit.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Well, great discussion, you guys. Scott, did this turn out wonderful or not?
I think it was a
did.
pleasant surprise for me as a guy who's done some podcast editing, did the doorbell and all that. Sorry, but hopefully Alan has a separate channel that you can edit out. But
Oh yeah, no, we'll make hay out of it. And do you have a podcast? I thought I would ask if you had a plug you wanted to do.
I do. It's been a while since I have been active on it, but yeah, it's called Seasons of Sobriety.
And we're gonna do one out.
Yeah, I'm gonna work with Alan to, but you guys know how hard he is. It's like, pinning down a fart in a windstorm. So
It is possible sometimes.
but yeah,
Fart in a windstorm.
it's called.
I've never been called a fart in a windstorm in my whole life.
Welcome,
I'm not gonna take that personally.
welcome to our relationship.
Change your life, change your myth. Cultivate your narrative with whomever you